Hello subscribers to another episode of On the Court with Coach Amir, and today we're going to talk about that forehand of yours. I know you've been trying to hit cross court and inside out with that forehand. If you're doing that right now, you're covering 70% of the court with the forehand side. But is it effective and is it efficient? That's what we're going to talk about today. Now earlier I'd mentioned that if you're going inside out on the forehand, you're going to be covering about 70% of the court. And I'm about to explain why. William's going to be doing shadow swings, and what shadow swings are is swinging without the ball. He's going to be doing shadow swings of going cross and going inside out. And you'll see that William's going to be covering 70% of the court just with his forehand. All right, William, so let's start off with the going cross on this side and going inside out. Here we go. Let's go. And notice as William's doing this, he's trying to move as fast as he can, but he's also trying to exaggerate his swing. Watch his take back there. Very good. Let's try to stay on the baseline there. So it's natural to step in as you're hitting your forehand, but it's also a good idea to take a step back. You don't want to be stuck in no man's land. Very good. And notice he's coming to about this mark right here, and he's covering about 70% of the court. Good job, William. Awesome. Very nice. And so if you're going inside on the forehand, you're covering 70% of the court. Now that's great news for you if your forehand's a weapon. But to make your forehand a weapon, we got to go back to the basics. First, let's talk about the grip. The grip, you can hold the racket in many different ways, and each grip is pertained to a different style of player. Depends on how you want to play. If you want to play old school, you're likely to go with the continental. Now, when the racket is faced like straight like this, I call that square. Obviously, when the racket is, this is the racket face here. If it's facing down, it's called closed. And when the racket face is facing the sky, it's called open. The ultimate goal is to be somewhat square at contact. So notice that with this grip, the continental grip, the benefit of it is that I'm already square. So I just need to take the racket back and make contact. The downfall with the continental grip is if you're playing against somebody that has extreme spin, it's very tough to generate your own spin to counter your opponent's spin. So if somebody's playing with lots of spin, it's very difficult to play with a continental forehand. This is more old school. Nowadays, you've got lots of players trying to transition to something with more spin. Now, if you can see the ridges here on the racket, that first ridge, you want this part of your hand to be on that ridge. You're looking at an Eastern grip. Now, William is an Eastern grip player, and he has topspin, but he's more flat. He likes to drive the ball. Now that is risky because if you don't have lots of control, you could still miss the ball. But William's been playing tennis for a long time, so he's learned his control over time. Now we're going to go on to the next grip, and this is one of my favorite grips. This is actually my grip as well. It's called the semi-western, and if you notice the ridges, they're right next to each other. So this is the Eastern right here. And if you shift over just a little bit to this next ridge, you're at a semi-western. Now, semi-western is quite popular on the ATP because semi-western gives you the ability to drive the ball, hit with topspin, and stay consistent. If there was a grip that offered 3 of these factors, I would choose it because tennis needs all those 3 things. You've got to be consistent. You've got to be able to generate your own power. And of course, you need spin to control all of that power. So semi-western is likely the grip that I like to recommend. And once again, it's on this ridge right here. And you want it to kind of fall right in the center of your hand right here. Now, this takes us to the Western grip, which is the last grip in tennis. Now, this is quite extreme here. There are some juniors and You know, Rafael Nadal, he's at a Western grip. That's why he can generate so much spin. He keeps that wrist back and he tries to square up at contact. However, you need a lot of wrist strength to do that, and you need great timing, and it's a little challenging. I recommend that for advanced players, but it is very difficult to play with. So if I were to recommend a grip, I would go with a semi-Western. You get a nice blend of the three factors I mentioned earlier, and you're able to get better results with this grip, in my opinion. Now, William, you've been playing with an Eastern grip for a long time. Would you say that if you turned over a little bit to the semi-Western, you would generate more spin?
Definitely.
Yeah. And I've been trying to get him to switch over a little bit so he can get a little bit more spin on his shots, because William hits the ball very hard. And so we need to control that speed with spin. Now let's go over the fundamentals of the forehand. Now that we've got the grip covered, we want to go to the unit turn. Now the unit turn is a fancy word for just turning with the racket. Now there are two ways to turn. I'm going to show you the first way, which is what most players do, and they don't even realize that it's actually incorrect. Now when William takes the racket back the first time, I'm going to want him to just let the racket weight fall as he takes the racket back. And he's going to take the racket back starting low. So go ahead, take the racket back. Now notice that when he turned, as he took the racket down, he had to lift the racket back up. Every racket has weight on it. And again, guys, you want tennis to be effective and efficient. So if your arm's getting tired by the motion that you've created, you're not being efficient. So every time he gets ready for a forehand, the racket goes down and then he's got to lift it back up. That's going to take a wear and tear on his arm. Also, that takes more time, and you want less time when you're taking the racket back. So what I always suggest to every player is your unit turn should be with the racket head up. That is faster to get ready. You're not fighting the weight of the racket, and you're getting ready to crush the ball, which is exactly what we want. So I'm going to have him do his unit turn a couple times. Go ahead, let's start with the racket up high, a little higher, good, and turn. Very nice, good. Let's take that racket a little farther back. Here we go, very nice. One more time, racket up and turn. Now notice his upper body and the racket are turning at the same time, and that's the key. When you turn, you want your unit turn to be unison, okay? Excellent. Try to keep it together, very good, and turn. Very good. One more time. Excellent. So let's recap. If you want to play flat and old school, there's nothing wrong with that. But you're going to run into problems by playing against modern players that play with a little bit more spin. So when your coach asks you to do a continental grip, you should ask them, is this the best fit for me nowadays in tennis? There is another grip called the Eastern grip, which is a blend of hitting flat and spin. It's turned over just a little bit right next to the continental. And the Eastern grip is great to drive the ball. However, again, you lack with a little bit of spin and you could risk inconsistency. The one after that is called semi-Western. This is the most popular grip in tennis. If you have a coach that's trying to teach you this, he's doing the right thing. Because semi-Western is going to create spin, it's going to create power and control. And a little shifted after that is going to be the Western grip. Now the Western grip is a little bit more extreme, but you get lots and lots of spin. However, it's very tough to hit with because you need to have power and great timing. So you got 4 different types of grips. If you have any more questions, we'll be covering it. So we've covered the grip and we've covered the unit turn. Now where does the racket go when you're turning? As you take the racket back, you want to take the racket back until it's looking like a stop sign. Now, some might say that this is a big take back. In tennis, I always say exaggerate your swing. As you get more advanced, you can shorten up the swing to about here. But when you get started, you always want to exaggerate. Take the racket all the way back. Now, after you've taken your take back, the first thing you want to do is drop the racket to the right. Okay? Dropping the racket to the right is going to generate lots of racket speed and it's going to do two things. It's going to get the racket leading with the butt of the racket, and it's also going to get the racket head down. You're killing two birds, one stone. Start the racket up. Now, some like to force the racket down. I don't want to see that. I want to see the racket fall by itself, because the smoother the swing, the more natural it is, the more power you're going to get. Now, once you've gone the wrist to go as low as you can, and as you can see, the racket face here is slightly closed, he's going to start pulling with the butt of the racket. Now, prior to contact, he's going to fold his wrist to maximize his topspin. So he's coming from down here, he's going to fold prior to contact. Again, he's going to fold prior to contact. Now, we talked about this earlier. This is called square, this is open, and this is closed. He will be coming closed on his racket face, squaring up at contact, and notice that his arm is strained out, so now he has lots of power, and his wrist is isolated to do the topspin. As he finishes here, he's going to be finishing to his left shoulder or his left ear, depending on how much spin he wants to get. So again, he's going to start off with his unit turn. So go ahead with your unit turn, very nice. Let the racket fall, lead with the butt of the racket, fold prior to contact, and go back. Let's do it again. I want you to fold prior to contact. Whip that wrist into it. There it is. And that second swing is where he's going to maximize power and spin. Very good. Let's do it one more time. Drop to the right. Let the racket fall. There it is. Very nice. One more time here. Turn all the way down. Very nice. I'm going to have you hit a couple balls. Let's shift over here a little bit. All right, you ready? Here we go. And turn. Very nice. And you can see it's a nice, smooth finish. He's letting his wrist do the job. Racket all the way back and whip. That's great. And that third ball had more power and more spin because his take back was a bit more. Now, you are running a risk when your take back is big, but if you're taking your racket back as fast as possible, which you should be doing on every ground stroke, you should be fine. I've been playing tennis with a big take back all my life, and I've won many championships. So it hasn't been an issue on getting ready because I like to get ready a lot earlier. And William is the same, and you should be the same as well. If you're hitting regular forehands and going inside out, you're covering 70% of the court. Now 70% is a big number, so you should take that very serious. To progress your forehand, the different stages you should start with is the first stage, which is the drop feed, which is in our other episodes. Drop feeding the forehand is going to give you the ability to work on the unit turn, the dropping to the right, square at contact, and the follow through. Trying to perfect that with a live feed is very difficult because you don't want timing in the picture yet. Once you've built the muscle memory, then you can have somebody hand feed you, or you can continue drop feeding yourself. Once you've perfected the swing, then you should start with the live feeds, trying to get the timing in play with the muscle memory. Once you've gone that, then you should start working on the movement, the running shots. This progression on the forehand is going to get you to the high level. Being able to create spin and power and consistency is the key to win championships on the forehand side. Today, we covered all of those things, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Now, if you're a tennis player and you're not a subscriber yet, you should, because we've got lots of content coming, and we want to help you become a better tennis player. So definitely go to our site, thecoachingvault.com, to become a subscriber today.